Hi, I am Multi-Topic Talk. Welcome to this new video. Today, I will give you my review for Advance Wars 1 plus 2 Reboot Camp. Yes, it's very late. The biggest reason is I wanted to complete both War Room, Mode 1, Mode 2, and I also wanted to complete the campaign for the original game and Advance Wars 2. I also did the art campaign of Advance Wars 2. The only thing I didn't touch upon was the art campaign of Advance Wars 1. So, yeah, I played the game for maybe, I don't know, 300 hours. So I know exactly what I am talking about. So let's talk about it. So it'll be a bit messy because I don't create any script in my videos because I want it to flow naturally. I want to have a discussion with people and not a text I read on the screen. So with that being said, let's talk about this game. Now, I am a long time Advance Wars fan. You may know it if you have been subscribed to my channel for a long time. It was actually one of the first few game I ever streamed. The moment I wanted to create a YouTube channel, there were two things I wanted to do. Number one, create a podcast. Number two, play Advance Wars and other games. But Advance Wars was the first thing I wanted to play. So this means this review, this critique is coming from a place of love and care for the IP. But I cannot lie to the viewer. I cannot lie to myself and tell, oh, it's a good game, because it's not. And this breaks me. We had 15 years, white out a new Advance Wars game. And the only player experience we could experience was Advance Wars by Web. I do like Advance Wars by Web a lot. It's amazing. It's a wonderful website. I highly recommend if you don't know about it. But now, 15 years, we finally got Reboot Camp. After two delays, not one, two delays. So it was meant at first to come out December 2021. We all know how it went. It was pushed back to, I believe, February or March 2022. And then they went weird and they were like, oh yeah, there's a war in Ukraine. We cannot release Advance Wars because there's war there. So a second delay happened. How to murder your game. People were hyped the first date. And it was a bummer for them, but they were like, oh, let's wait another like 3 or 4 months and we will finally get our game. 3 or 4 months later, they delay it again. So I can bet a lot of people were turned off and they didn't want to buy the game anymore. Now, it's more of a what's going on with the game than a review or critique, but I think it's worth mentioning these things because this is more than just a review of the game. I will explain why I think the game failed in sales and why Nintendo doesn't talk about this game as well. And I also think that these two delays, they are a reason to hate this game even more. So everything is connected. So the idea of Advance Wars 1 plus 2 Reboot Camp is let's make a remake about these classic games that everyone likes, including myself. So you know what? Great idea. Do it right. It's a banger. The first two games were amazing. If you do your remake right, you can only do better, right? Right? But they did it wrong. Yes. If you were looking forward to buy the game and enjoy Advance Wars, maybe a few hours, maybe you will finish Advance Wars 1, maybe you will even finish Advance Wars 2, maybe you will even finish the War Rooms. But all of these game modes and maps, eventually they will make you realize this game is not as good as the original 2. It's the truth. It's the sad truth. And it's not like they didn't have time to make this game. I do think usually a game takes like 2 years, maybe 4 years to be made. I don't know these details. I never really asked anyone, but I can only bet this is between 2 and 4 years. Now, of course, there are some games that are in an L production, other games that are delayed. So, starting by the idea, okay, this game took 4 years. They had two delays, 6 years in total to work on the game. Or let's just pretend, okay, you know what? They had 2 years. Okay, they had 2 years. Then the 2 years of delays. So even the least amount of time I believe is possible to make a game. Even with this, after 4 years, you can expect a complete and fun game. I will say it here at the end, if I remember, after this messy review. If I remember, I will most likely explain why I think the game turned out to be the way it is. There's many factors. So yeah, let's now just focus on this, the game. Issue number one. Number one. The artificial intelligence suck. It's godly terrible. You may wonder why. I will bring you a few examples on top of my head of experience I had with the game. And if you want more intel, more information on it, feel free to watch any of my stream on this channel or any of my videos over Master Kambai channel. I can bet you pick any content. You will hear me scream, cry, everything. Everything. So, Advance Wars 1 in 2001, I believe. It had a bad CPU, a bad artificial intelligence. Their focus was attacking your APC and other transport. That was kind of trash, right? But that was a meme, and that was a way for you to play around a harder CPU if you play the harder campaign. Now, if you look back at this game, now I didn't play that much. I did finish the game on normal mode, and I did finish the war room. I never really finished the R mode because I gave up on it. I thought that was more pain than anything else. I most likely did half of the R mode. I do think where I kind of tapped out of it was like Kanbei's error. That's most likely the last mission. I was like, you know what? I play game for fun. I don't have fun. So yeah, I played a lot. And based on what I remember, I may be wrong. Maybe someone that has played more than me may have a counter answer to it. But based on my experience and what I remember, we never had really, really awfully stupid engagement in the making. What I mean by there is, I don't remember an anti-air attacking a tank. I don't remember a recon attacking a tank. I don't remember an anti-air attacking a medium tank or a tank attacking a medium tank. You know where I'm getting at? If you played the game, you know exactly what a bad engagement is. I don't remember this happening that much. I think in the original game, the worst that could happen is a stupid medium tank goes after your APC to only be in range of an indirect somewhere. That's the worst thing that could happen in the original game. When you look back at the original game, the CPU wasn't always making anti-air. For a fact, it was only making anti-air in maps with airport. And sometimes I will admit they didn't make any, but it wasn't on every single map. So you see, the artificial intelligence was stupid in the first game. It didn't care about your range, and it did weird choices that no human would do. But it was designed in a way it did try to win. It didn't know how to, and that's a good thing. Because if you wire your artificial intelligence into winning, no human being shall beat it. It's the sad truth. So you need to make a good game. You need to make your CPU flawed. And in the original game, it was flawed. It's not perfect, but it was kind of fun to fight in War Room and in the campaign, the normal campaign. I truly despise the R campaign. But yeah, that's what's going on. Advance Wars 2, Black Hole Rising, the classic, the big game. They add new things. Mech spam, indirect spam. These two things are trash, right? But here's the catch. Even if that was a staple, they still try to win. And sometimes they would have good builds. They don't spam anti-air. But they have one anti-air, that's enough. They have a few makes, that's enough. They have one lander, that's enough. So even if Advance Wars 2 was slightly better, because now I decided, you know what, I don't go after your transport anymore. So there are areas where it's smarter, and this I'm not quite sure 100%. I can't really remember because the last time I played Advance Wars 2 was a year ago, but actually more than a year ago, almost 2 years ago now. But if I remember correctly, they are clever enough to don't go in purpose in range of your indirects. Now, if you got a unit in range of their unit, they will attack you even if you have an indirect protecting it. This I remember. But just a random indirect, I don't think they will go in range of it. So now I explained the past CPUs, the past artificial intelligence. And I will also add this on top. Dual Strike. CPU was so bad, but it was really good. If you are bad at the game, there are chances you may lose to the CPU of Dual Strike. This is peak CPU. This is 2006 or 5. 5. I think it's 2005. That was one of the first few DS games. This I remember. So I do think it's 2005. With that being said, 2005 had a great CPU. Like, implement the artificial intelligence of Dual Strike into the first two games. The first two games already become that much better. Now, is the art campaign on the first Advance Wars game possible anymore? I don't think so. But hey, we can try. That's an offer to every ROM hacker out there. implement these dual strike CPU on the art campaign. Try to beat it. Don't think it's possible, but try to beat it. The first big issue with Reboot Camp artificial intelligence, the CPU, is how stupid it is. They don't play to win. They play to stall you, to slow you down, to make everything longer and slower. How many times I have seen really stupid engagement because it would stop me from winning under that number of time. How many freaking times I've seen a damn anti-air going after a tank, or a medium tank attacking a tank on a city or a forest while on a road or a plane. Or, like, okay, maybe I could get it this last bad engagement. I could get it. But how many times I've seen units that are damaged attacking stronger units only to die in the process and take out one damage or two? Too many times. Any player versus player format, I could get it. Every strategy is good if you can weaken your opponent, if you can deal massive damage, or if you really need something to get done. Only player versus player basis, I get it. We always have a plan. We always have ideas. But on that format where it's CPU just trying to make the game longer, it's not fun. No. More doesn't always means better or good. The CPU in Reboot Camp creates anti-air in every single run, even when there's no air units. And one of my chats in one of my streams, they were like, "Oh, it's because you had infantries," and they were like, "That's a unit to destroy infantries." I could see where that person was coming from, and that may be the reason. But Recon also exists for the same purpose. They are not as effective, but they are cheaper and they make you look smarter than using an anti-air just for infantry. I think it's really brainless to build an anti-air just to delete infantries. YouTube friendly here. And when the anti-air basically destroyed one or two infantry, you know what they will do? They will look at the first tank and they will be like, let's smash it! Right? Right? That's how we play, guys. Anti-air versus tank as the attacker. Stupid! I see this shit. This irritates me so much. I'm like, why is this game so bad? What were they thinking when they made it? Are they really Advanced Wars fan? Are they players that played RPGs? Do they know what fun should be? Now, of course, a new player may find it hard or challenging because they're like, oh, it's really hard to get him through. It's scary because he's overly aggressive. But the moment you have experienced the moment, you are level headed. It doesn't work. Also, there's no diversity at all in their armies. Many games. I'm not joking. To summarize, battlecopter spam, battlecopter spam, battlecopter spam. Oh, eventually he got the money. Fighter. Battlecopter spam, battlecopter spam, battlecopter spam. Like, you got like 20 fighters, it will still make battlecopters. Stars, stars, stars. Wait, what? Are you trying to win there? Don't you want to save some money to have an extra fighter so you can maybe compete with my 20 fighters? I think it's too much brain power for them to actually do something that makes sense. No, it's funny because I speak out about so many things. I'm sure I will forget something. So let's talk about that. Many times around, you can airport lock the CPU. And I am not joking. I do think it's the first time ever I was airport locking a CPU for entire games. Because if I remember correctly, in the first two games, and even Dual Strike, at Dual Strike it's a better CPU, so that would never happen. But the first two game, after you shut down like 2 or 3 times in a row an airport, they will most likely pretend that airport no longer exists. But again, I may be wrong because it's been a long time I didn't play these games, but I don't remember poking fun at the CPU the way I did with Reboot Camp. So it happened at least in 2 or 3 different maps and games, and I vividly remember at least one of them, Pivot Island. Now, the sad part is I don't remember if that was the stream or the video about it, but Pivot Island is basically one of the war room. It's Eagle, and you know what? I placed a missile launcher by my base, and it was aiming at an airport. And every single turn, I am not joking, every single turn, he bought a damn copter. So this means he lost 9k every turn. Because my missile was like, pew, pew, pew. So my turn was basically, okay, I delete that. Oh, the copter, pew. The copter, pew. Just guess how much fun I had. Every turn doing the same thing. It's not fun. I'm telling you right now. If the CPU does that kind of stupid stuff, it's so insulting, irritating, annoying. I was screaming, I was angry. I that day I wanted to do more than like 1 or 2 war room. I wanted to get through the war rooms. I could not. After that, I was out. I just put the game aside. And I think at that point I also took a break of many weeks without playing. To give you an idea, before I finished the entire game, I was like, it will be fun. I will make my own campaign where I will stream and do videos about a campaign of my making. But after finishing the game, my interest into finding the CPU is at zero. I'm not into that anymore. I'm not interested anymore. I'm not. I'm sorry, but I will stay away from your game. The CPU is just so awful. I have 2 other stops about the CPUs. Number one, they will try to capture building they have no chance on capturing. Now, is it all Reboot Camp fault? I don't think so. Player versus player, that kind of stuff happens as well. And even in the original game, I do think it happens. So that's an issue for me, but that was an issue even in the original games, even in PvP. It's not that bad. Among all of the issues I covered so far, it's the less annoying, the least bad. It's the best issue, basically. If that was the only issue, I would be like, oh yeah, we could improve on that, but the rest is good. But no, it's not the case. It's not the case. I'm sorry. The CPU is the worst. Any other Advance Wars game in the franchise has a better CPU. The wire work, right? The last issue with the CPU. The power and supers. I don't know if it has been patched, changed, whatever. I don't know, but I know that most of the time I did play the game among that like 300 hours I spent on it. Um, he doesn't always use his power and supers. He will sit on a super for many turns. For example, Ark. You know what? Ark is one of the seal that is the most like anti to play as. You got your power, you got your super, push it. You heal, you damage, you're laughing because now you're already ahead. Brain dead seal, right? But no, the CPU will sit on the super for like 4 turns, 5 turns. As long as you don't let him have good engagement, he will never use that super. Yeah, if you hear me right, he will only use the super if he gets good engagement. So this means in the Green Art campaign, in a lot of missions, I haven't seen a single Black Storm. Why? Really, why? Or I don't see a Black Storm, but he's about to die, so it doesn't matter if Black Storm happens. It's too late. Brother, what were you thinking when you made the game? Or sister, whatever. So yeah, I see Ought not using their super. I miss Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. Because at least there it was using his name super. So that was challenging, that was annoying, that got under my skin, but in a fun and good way where I was like, I fight someone that doesn't know how to win, but they try. When I play Reboot game, I don't feel the same way. I feel like I'm just playing to waste my time. Because the CPU doesn't want to win, it wants to slow you down. That's the player experience. So, like, if I didn't want to go in depth with the game, I could stop my review here and tell you it was a boring and not fun game, but I feel like it's not enough. And the biggest reason why I want to expand on why the game is so broken and bad, I want for future installment if there ever as one, if we ever get a new game, I want the people, even if they most likely will never see this video, I want the people to, at least if they research what went wrong, they can find why. Or maybe someone will tell them about my video, and then they will look into it, and they're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, um, I do that as a fan that only wants what's best for the game. I waited too long for Reboot Camp to be this bad. So now for any new installment, the bar is both low and high. It's high because I miss so much the original, and it's low because we got Reboot Camp. It will be easy to beat Reboot Camp, but it will be very hard to tap to equal the first 3 games. Yes, I placed them all in the same bag. Sorry, Days of Ruin fans. I don't think your game is good, but hey, you have every right to like it. Next up, unit design, seal design, color design, I will drag this game even more in the mud. I am colorblind. It's 2024, and if you wasted time to change some of the dialogue to sound less sexist in your game, why didn't you take time to create something for colorblindness? I know a lot of games. Well, no, that's a lie. I heard about games that have a colorblind mode. I heard about them. I don't know how much of it is true, but I've heard about it. So, like, instead of changing the dialogue because you want it more modern, you should focus more on things that actually help the player, like a colorblind mode. Now, you will think, oh, but you didn't add issues before. That's true. So that this means they messed up somewhere. For someone colorblind like me, I'm not severe. I will specify that. I'm not severe. I'm average. I'm like basic, I should say. I have hard time with red and green. I have hard time with blue and purple or blue and any other color similar to blue. Red, yellow, green, yellow. You see, these individually, except for blue and purple, I have no idea which one is which one. Like right now I see something blue on my screen, maybe it's purple because I never really knew the difference between both. But when it comes to red, I know YouTube isn't red. Right now I don't have example. Oh, Canada Dry is green. So you see, individually I see colors. But when you mash them together, this is where it's messy. I cannot see the difference. Now with Reboot Camp, every unit looked the same. And when I was as Orange Star fighting off Green Earth, trust me, sometimes I didn't realize I had a unit. I thought that was an enemy unit because all of the unit looks the same. And the green is so similar to red, I could not pick them apart. And that was really bad. I hated this shit. I play over Advanced Wars by Web. I do struggle sometimes when my opponent pick a color similar to mine, but the big catch is where the unit are looking at. If they both look this way, I'm effed over, but if they're looking like that, one is like that, the other is like that, it's different. I'm like, okay, I'm that one, or I'm that one, so I know how to pick them apart, right? And the other factor is even if the colors are similar in Advanced Wars by Web, for example, the design of the unit is slightly similar. A brown army doesn't look like a green earth army. They have some kind of airy stuff, and green earth looks like green earth. And that's cool. The same goes for Orange Star and Red Fire. Speaking of which, a few days ago I fought Red Fire as Orange Star. I mix up the colors, but the design of the unit is different enough for me to be like, this one is mine, this one is yours. And on top of that, Red Fire is much darker than Orange Star, so I cannot realize which one is which one. When it comes down to Reboot Camp, forget it. I'm Orange Star, I'm Green Art, I fight Orange Star or Green Art. I don't know what's going on until I use a unit I thought was my enemies. Very fun experience, folks. Very, very fun. So all of these war room where there's 3 or more players, that was goddamn painful. I hated the experience so much. I was like, I don't know what's going on. It drives me nuts. Now the next up is unit design. It's godly awful. It's even worse than the Dame Cutters. In the original game, and Advance Wars by Web, I see a unit on the board. I know exactly which unit is that. I don't need to select the unit to go in detail with the list and the intel. I watch, I know. Reboot camp! Forget it! How many times I got shot by something I thought was a cruiser but was in fact a battleship? Every damn boat looked the same. The bomber and the fighter, they look the same. Well, these are things. Sometimes I thought that was a normal thing, so I would stay 6 square away, and then I realized it's my opponent's turn. They only might move like 5 square away. Oh, that was a medium tank. The pain I suffered playing this game. On top of that, the battleship, cruiser, regardless of the army, they all look the damn same. You cannot tell them apart. You need to select the damn unit. And I suspect it's because they thought they were clever. They were like, oh, it's more modern, it's cooler. Or maybe it was on purpose. Hear me out. It was on purpose because they wanted you to spend more time on the game. So when you see unit, you need to select it. So it takes you like 10 extra seconds to select the unit to know, okay, that's a battleship or that's a cruiser. I can bet that's one of the reasons. They want you to spend more time on the game to pretend it has substance. How many times my bomber got destroyed by the fighter because I thought that was a damn bomber. Hell, sometimes I thought I had a fighter, so I sent my bomber right into fighter. I hate you, Reboot Camp. I'm laughing right now because I think it sounds funny and stupid. I sound like a noob. I know I'm not. But hey, this is what we get, Reboot Camp. This is what we get. In the original game, the units of each nation felt like a different nation. In Reboot Camp, I feel like all of the allied are almost the same with small difference. Oh, that unit has one bar on its head or something. The truly different units are like black hole units. So what's up with that? At least you tried with Black Hole, but why didn't you try with the other nations? The original game made 20 years ago on a cartridge for Game Boy Advance had more effort put into it. And I can bet they didn't spend 4 to 6 years making it. This is what we get, a AAA game 2024. The wrong game production. I don't know what to call it. Okay, the seal design. This is probably the only thing I will praise and defend. Since we speak about CO, let's speak about the teams. You will never beat the original for someone that has played the original because there's nostalgia toward it. That's the sad truth. Now, as a newcomer, I don't know if the current one are better or the past one are better because I look it into a nostalgia lens. I've been playing for this game. I've been playing this game for over 23 years. I was like 5 years old when I played for the first time Advance Wars game. So yeah, nostalgia is there. But I will admit, I like your seal design. I like the team. This is all really cool. And when you get the power, you get the super, you have an extra layer to the music. Good job. This is one of the few things you did right. But then, half-baked voiceover. What happened there? I have no clue. It's cool to hear some character tell something, but we are not 2001. So I feel like if you introduce voiceover, voice over your entire game, or at least every cutscene, or put on some effort so you feel like they care about voiceover. With this game, they will tell you one or two lines, and it's always the same one or two lines. For the entire game, for every COs, you don't have full sentence, you don't really have discussion between COs. It's a shame. It's 2024. Well, I should say. The game came out in 2023. I'm sure you can make it work. How many games have voiceovers? So I just think it's freaking lazy, and I also feel like they tried to sell the game. Oh, this Advance Wars game has voiceover, but it's not really true. It's not really true. It's a half-baked voiceover. And now that we speak about words and stuff, why did you change Yellow Comet into Gold Comet? I get it. You guys in the USA are racist, even if you deny it, even if you think you're not because you're inclusive and diverse. The way your brain is wired, you are racist. If you think Yellow Comet is racist, you're wrong. You are racist to think that. It was a satire. If you look back at the lore of Advance Wars, it's a satire. They basically turn war into a child's game. The soldiers are toys, and the commanders are stupid. Some of the commanders are stereotypes. They are meant to be funny. But because USA is racist, this game can no longer be as funny as it was. So let's make Yellow Comet into Gold Comet. It's not even freaking gold, it's still freaking yellow! Now instead of black hole, it's dark hole. Guys, it doesn't work! I will never say dark hole outside of a video, or I will never say gold comet outside of a video. Because it's not the name of these factions. Parts of Eagle Journey in the past is he started off as sexist towards Sammy and he ended up liking Sammy. He had freaking growth in the original game, but in this game they took off the sexist part from Eagle because it's not politically correct. So now his character arc into liking Sammy is gone. Now Lash is a different character. Like, yeah, she doesn't feel like how she was. I cannot really put the word on that one, but she doesn't feel like she was. Since I mentioned the music, I will mention it again because something came up to my mind. This is what happens when it's messy. We got very similar team. In the original, the same teams were also similar, but I felt like in the original, there was more love put into it. There was a bit more diversity. So Max, Andy, Sammy, these three seals. In the original game, they had teams that felt similar but different at the same time. I'm sure if you put these three, I can recognize which one of these three is from these three. And I think I will also add Nell to the mix because I do think Nell also has similar team. I will recognize which one is which. Reboot Camp, forget it. I maybe it's nostalgia talking again. Maybe it's because I heard the others much more, but I feel like there's less effort put into making the sound different and making it good. Maybe I nitpick too much this game. I'm sorry that's how I review stuff. That's how I critique stuff. I'm sorry. It's me. It's multi-topic talk. The next up would be the lack of playtesting. Maybe I suck at the game. I don't know. I like to believe I'm decent. I know I'm not the best, but I know the game. Here's the thing. Every campaign mission where you have a limited turn, I struggled a lot. It always felt like there's only one way. If you don't find the way by trying again and again and again, you will never beat it. And again, it's not necessarily because it's hard or anything, because the CPU in the entire game sucks. It's because of the time constraints. You need specific strategy to make it work. And the charm of past Advance Wars game was, you know what? There are many ways to beat a level because you are a strategy guy, and there are many ways. But I feel like in Reboot Camp, every timed mission, like every labs in the Advanced Wars 2 campaign, you need one way, and there's no other way. So the end result, I spent hours in these damn annoying lab maps. I hated every experience event. I spent more time for one lab, for all of the lab reunited in the original game. That gives you an idea. These labs are hell on earth. And again, it's not because they are hard, it's because of time constraint. And I can bet nobody over freaking way forward bothered to playtest these same labs. Otherwise, they would add one extra turn for each lab, maybe two in some cases. I know they didn't try. I know it, guys. I'm sorry, but they didn't playtest this game. It was so tight in the time. Sometimes I was really one turn away, or I did one mistake, and I needed to reset this shit. Speaking of reset, why can't we save anymore on our versus games? I don't know. WayForward was out of money. Hinting at a potential issue. I will also add that the factories are painfully bad. Sometimes they just take forever. You already won. But because it's a factory and they want to make it seemingly hard, they just add more units. It never ends. I hated Factory Blues in the original. I hated this level even more in this one. I played Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising many times. I like this game so much. I also remain I will still say that Dual Strike is my favorite. This I strongly believe, and I will die on that hill. I don't care. Michael Rising is amazing. I played this game so many times, despite disliking some of the levels. You know what? I still played these levels. The only level I will try my best to never play again is that dang volcano. That volcano is disgusting. I want to puke just to think of it. When it comes to Reboot Camp, no thanks. I finished the game. I don't think I will ever play it again. So the factories, the labs, they are painfully bad. Another one that is painfully bad, Strongland, the final war room of Mode 1. It never ends. Mine took 48 days or so as Storm, and I did something to block Andy in his corner. So I basically only fought Blue Moon and Greenheart for most of the game and left Andy last. And Andy was almost not part of that fight. And it took me 48 days. So imagine if I didn't exploit how stupid the CPU was. Forget it. I would never beat this shit. And there's another aspect on why the CPU is so bad. It blocked itself. It's funny how now I bring this up and we are talking about other stuff, but it will attack one of your units from a base or an airport, so it will lock its own factories and such. And there are other cases where their own unit block a choke point, for example. And if you don't attack that unit will never move. So like, you know what? That spot, I don't bother about it anymore. I will attack from the other side. And it will just be stuck there because it's not in the programming to move or do something about that. I don't know what they were thinking. No, no, no. Next up, player versus player sucks. You are a triple A game and you dare to do this to us. Not only it sucks, but it's bad. If you want a player versus player experience, forget Reboot Camp. Go play Advance Wars by Web. You bought a $80 game where you should, in normal cases, be able to have a fun multiplayer experience. No, play Advance Wars by Web. Reason number one: the maps. They are very small and limited. It's stupid. The only thought process would be, oh, we want them to play shorter games. I'm sorry, but why can't I play a game the way I want to play the game? Upgrade your server? I don't know. Find a way. Advanced Wars by Web is a fan-made website that does it thousand times better. Because, of course, Reboot Camp made by professional can only do 1v1 on tiny, small maps. Well, Advanced Wars by Web made by fans, you can play up to 16 players there. You can have big maps. can even play sync. So this means you pick your turn, and your opponent pick his turn whenever he can. I could understand Reboot Camp not being able to do the same thing because it's on a cartridge and it will be a nightmare to micromanage every single game ongoing. So I get that it's all live, the games we have on Reboot Camp. But even if it's all live, I'm telling you, no matchmaking is bad. The fact that only very small, tiny maps are allowed, it's bad. The fact that you cannot block some of the seals the way Advanced Wars by Web does is bad. You know why? Only time I fought a freaking Storm as Andy. Because I'm player one. My opponent knows I picked Andy. He picked Storm. Great. So if there's no way for you to protect your opponent, trust me, it's really hard just with the Switch, or maybe I just suck with it. So basically, we have a Facebook group, and in that Facebook group, there are chats. And one of the chat is Reboot Camp. So most of my games I did online for Reboot Camp was true that way, where oh, text me your whatever, and I will text you mine. So we add each other and then we play. And when I wasn't talking in depth with the person, they will go crazy. They would pick like Achi, they would pick like Colin, and I would pick like a low tier seal. And oh, but I thought that was fine. He's not that OP. Excuse me, is that your first experience with the game? So after a few experience of like Andy versus Term, I just decided, you know what? Every opponent I will hit, I will ask them which seal they want to play. He wants to play Storm, perfect, I pick Achi. He wants to play Sonya, perfect, I'll play Sammy. But we need that extra communication that Switch I don't think has. Otherwise the experience is not fun. Now let's blame a bit Advance Wars 1. Mode 1 is unplayable. Because if you don't make it clear that Max is banned, only Max shall be played. So, yeah, Reboot Camp suck. It has no matchmaking, and the experience is not fun. The map are too small, too limited. They basically don't want you to play online. That's as simple as that. Now it's 2024, and on your cartridge, apparently you can only have 50 maps. Days of Ruin, a game made 15 years ago, had more space. Well, actually, I don't think so. Maybe it's 50 as well, but Days of Front either had 50 or 100. In both cases, it's better than what we got with Reboot Camp because now it's 56. And it's 2023 when the game came out. So you see where I'm getting at. Now, I will be honest, because I was harsh, I did shit on the game a lot. I'm sorry about that. I will admit something. The damage value and the seals are respected. So it really feels like Advance Wars. It feels like Advance Wars 1. It feels like Advance Wars 2. And this is the highlight of the game. It's very fun. I like that. But the rest doesn't feel like it. They change the name, they change the characters, they make the CPU really stupid and unplayable. So I will praise this. Guys and girls that made the game, you nailed the gameplay itself. It plays. I like that. Hell, the map design is fun. It's amazing. But there's just so much bad that you forget these are genuine and good things. You're solely focused on having your game so long that you forgot that a game must be fun in the first place. And having a CPU that spams the same stupid units, it's not fun to fight. 20 copters on a airport that's blocked. Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm too stupid to play this game properly? So in the end, here's what I think happened. They didn't add enough money. Nintendo didn't believe in the project enough to give it to a good studio, a good place where good games are made. They they gave the game to a studio they knew they would basically have it cheaper. They gave it so okay, it's cheaper, so let's rely on them. And they blew the budget because of the delays, because people making the game apparently based on what I heard are lazy people, so they just kick the can until there's no tomorrow, and boom, they realize, oh, out of money. We had two delays. People didn't want to buy a game because they're like, why there are two delays? What's the reason of that? And it's a game they randomly dropped like 2 weeks before a bigger game would come out, Zelda. So of course, they shot in both of their feet. 2023 was crowded of games. Why would someone buy that reboot camp? Why? Even if you know nothing about this game. It's the obscure IP that a very niche audience of gamers knows about. Everyone knows about Zelda. Nobody knows about Advance Wars. I feel like if they waited, or if they released it in December 2021, maybe in 2022, despite the war, it would have performed better because people were hyped. When it came out in 2023, people were not hype anymore. They were like, it will be delayed again, or the two delays they deleted my hype, my interest in the game. You did that to yourself, Nintendo. You hired cheap people to make a bad game. This is what you get. I do think it underperformed. Otherwise, it would be everywhere. Nintendo would brag about it. They would say, "Oh, this is a successful game. Go buy it." And the other thing is reviews. The people that had early access apparently could not tell a bad thing about the game. They needed to be gentle and genuine. So this means the people making the game, they were aware and they knew they missed the mark. So why did he do the game in the first place? If you believe in your project, if you do think your project is solid and good, you would not act in a way like that. You would not ask people be genuine, or I should say, be gentle, be good. Just tell the goods. Oh yeah, and I completely forgot because I don't script something freaking important. Game crash. How many freaking game crash I had? I have a player versus player 1v1, right? Someone does their super game crash. Excuse me, that I just wasted like an hour into this game and now it crashed? What happened, game? Or I play a versus game like 4 players. Game crash. It's versus, I cannot save. There's autosave in every other mode except versus. Why? Why do you take away our option to save the game? I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that tiny head of theirs. The end word is Nintendo hates Advance Wars, and fans are better than production like Way Forward. I will praise again Advance Wars by Web. All of you involved in Advance Wars by Web, guys, girls, and others, are amazing. Respect. You kept the flame alive while there's so much hatred toward Reboot Camp. And it's valid and justified hatred. We waited 15 years for this game. We had 2 delays, and this is what we get? The second delay was just a pure bullshit thing. The game was complete, the game was finished. And because they ran out of money, they didn't work on that extra time they had to improve the game. This is what happened. The first delay was because that team was lazy. They were kicking the things and they were taking their time because they thought they had time and they ended up not having time. So there was a delay. So the first delay I could understand. But the second delay, it's like asking for your game to flop. Nintendo, that's on you. I can bet, and I am one of them. Some people that would have gotten the game in 2022 instead of 2023 would have been happier and better. Because earlier, right? Earlier, I purchased it in 2022 instead of waiting a full year to end up with that product. Of course, some of my issues would still be there. It's not a perfect game, but my hatred toward this game would be smaller. With that being said, this is a atrocious game. The fact that it's 1v1 online with tiny map is insulting and bad. It's even worse when someone uses super and that trashes the game and you lost an hour. You lost half an hour. I don't care how much time you lost. You still lost that time. Or you were invested, you wanted an outcome, you had fun, and then boom, crash. Do better, Nintendo. If you ever make another Advance Wars game, I don't think this will happen because this game underperforms. So now they will read it wrong. They will be like, there's no result. Nobody wants the game. The still fact that Advance Wars by Web is still alive like 20 years after it arrived and there's a strong community there is proof that there's a market. It's proof that people want to play this game. It's not selling because it's not a good game. It's not selling because you didn't believe it sold. If you believed a bit more in your product, people would be interested and curious to read out and be like, oh, you know what? I will give it a shot. I will try it. But you didn't. Nintendo, all you see is Zelda, Mario, and Smash. This is like the 3 IPs you care about. A bit Metroid, but Metroid not as much as the other 3. Any other IP under you is doomed. Maybe not Fire Emblem, actually. So there's like 4 big IP and 5 medium IP. Maybe Splatoon. So actually, Nintendo, you have a huge library, but it's only game you care about. With that being said, that's my review. I do think this game, Advance Wars 1 plus 2 Reboot Camp, is a dud. It's a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10. There's just so much you can improve. Your games suck.